I'd like to thank you for being here this evening. We're running a couple of minutes behind. We're checking on one of our council members, and so we should be starting very soon. So again, thank you, and I see him out in the hall, and we'll get started immediately. So please bear with us. And again, good evening. So wonderful seeing so many wonderful faces.
Yes, it is.
What do you say?
Oh, he said Mr. Wolf is en route. He wants us to proceed.
Oh, because I saw him in the hall just now. Okay. All right. Well, having said that, at this time, I would like to call to order the City of Bowie regular City Council meeting of Monday, May 15th, 2023, in Council Chambers. It is now 8:07 p.m. If everyone would please rise who are able with me to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, I would like to confirm that we have a quorum.
Yes, sir. You have 6 council members in attendance this evening.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I will entertain any motions for changes to the agenda, additions, deletions, or amendments. Hearing none, we will move forward. We will now go into citizen participation. Thank you. And the first person to speak is Lori Banshabach. Did I enunciate that correct?
Close enough. It's Banchback.
Banshabach. Okay,
Yes.
thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
And you can adjust the mic to whatever level and slide it over to you, whatever works for you.
Testing? Yes, good evening. I was disappointed to see the Marketplace dialogue moved up a week with so little notice. And I disagree with Mr. Berman's comment at last week's meeting that meeting the legal code requirement translated to resounding support of the citizens, because he doesn't have my support. The council members reported that constituents were not on board with the project, and I agree. So when he shut down further dialogue with constituents, he's actually shutting down his target market, because the reason for him building that storage unit in the city was to attract local residents. But by shutting down the dialogue with the local residents, basically he shot himself in the foot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have no more. Okay, thank you. We will now move to presentations, and we will start with the City of Bowie Women Trailblazers Awards. And Lori, that's my cue? Okay. The City of Bowie is filled with dynamic volunteers, community advocates, and leaders who represent our city in their volunteer or professional work. The City Council is pleased to acknowledge 6 exemplary women who've made tremendous contributions to the community or their profession. We are proud to announce the 6 honorees for the City of Bowie's inaugural Women Trailblazers Award, the Honorable Sheila R. Tillerson Adams. Evelyn J. Archie. Elizabeth M. Hewlett. Dr. Jacqueline R. Marshall. Kathleen M. Parker. And Dr. Maggie E. Ray. Let's hear it again for these wonderful, extraordinary women trailblazers. I would like for you now to watch the brief video highlighting the accomplishments of our honorees.
The city of Bowie is proud to celebrate the following women trailblazers. Sheila R. Tillerson Adams is a trailblazing figure in the legal profession. She became the first African-American woman trial judge in Prince George's County in 1993, and in 1996, she was elevated to the circuit court. In 2010, Judge Adams became the first woman to lead the circuit court in Prince George's County. And during her tenure, she established the very first re-entry and veterans courts in the state of Maryland and oversaw the implementation of numerous problem-solving courts, such as adult and juvenile drug court. Additionally, she championed the creation of the Family Justice Center, which helps victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, child abuse, and elder abuse. In choosing her, Mayor Adams says her mission has always been to uplift and empower others, as seen in her professional accomplishments, community involvement, and devotion to her family and friends. It's because of her tenacity and passion for change that many young African American attorneys are able to dream and live the impossible dream. Thank you for being a steadfast force and a true change agent. Evelyn J. Archie is an accomplished business professional with over 30 years of experience in organizational management, community outreach, and stakeholder engagement. As the community engineer and project outreach manager for Washington Gas, she develops project-focused outreach strategies and coordinates with various stakeholders, including neighborhood organizations, businesses, residents, and government agencies in the DMV. She's a proud member of the St. Paul Baptist Church and has served over 20 years as an ordained deaconess and on various ministries. She's the proud mother of 3 adult children. In selecting Miss Archie for this award, Councilmember Jared Hawkins said her passion to serve the city while at the County Council, especially our senior residents, displayed and enhanced our city's strong culture. She built strong relationships and was there for those in need and mentored young generations in what service to community is. Elizabeth M. Hewlett is an attorney and dedicated public servant. She recently retired from her 22-year tenure as the chairman of the Prince George's County Planning Board and the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. As Planning Board Chair, she was responsible for directing 6,000 employees, a park police force, and a $395 million budget. Ms. Hewlett is the first African American and the first woman to serve in this position, and was the longest-serving chair since the commission's creation in 1927. She is currently the vice chair of the National Capital Planning Commission. She was appointed by President Joe Biden. In nominating her, Councilmember Henri Gardner says, "A trailblazer is a pioneer, a person who takes risks and travels an unknown path. They blaze a trail and leave a path for others to follow. And in Prince George's County, we have that special person in Betty Hewlett. The positive impact of her efforts will be felt for many years to come." Raised in Prince George's County, Dr. Jacqueline Marshall is a trailblazer, children's champion, and a mentor. Dr. Marshall spent 19 successful years in the Prince George's County school system. Dr. Marshall's passion for children's development and empowerment led her to start the Bold, Beautiful, Brilliant Girls Youth Empowerment Group in 2019, where young ladies discover their fullest potential and learn to live beyond themselves. She believes that we cannot predict the future, but we can create it. Every school is filled with scholars of great potential. Each student is destined for greatness and deserves the best. She's the owner of the Kumon Learning Center at Free State Shopping Center. In selecting Dr. Marshall, Councilmember Clinton Truesdale says she created a platform for young entrepreneurs to contribute to the economic development of their community with a focus on financial literacy and creating generational wealth. Just one of the many examples why she's a true trailblazer. Kathleen Parker is a Bowie resident and a dedicated community servant. Since 1994, she's served on the Bowie Arts Committee and has been the chair since 2020. Kathleen also volunteers for her church and various charitable causes. After teaching for 4 decades, Kathleen retired in 2016, but that has not stopped her from giving back to her community. She joined the Brava Board, helped form the Old Town Bowie Arts and Heritage Festival Steering Committee, and served as an election judge for the 2020 and 2022 presidential primaries and elections. In selecting her for this honor, Councilmember Michael Esteve says, through a lifetime of dedication to education, community involvement, and volunteer leadership, Kathleen Parker exemplifies the spirit of service and community building. Kathleen is among those community pillars without which Bowie would not be a vibrant place as it is today. Innovation and trailblazing have been key features for Maggie Ray's career. This is her 6th year at Bowie High School teaching English and AP English classes, while simultaneously serving as a mentor for student-teacher interns. She has also served as a professional development lead teacher and a member of the equity team and a curriculum writer for various English courses in Prince George's schools. Maggie resides in the Meadowbrook section of Bowie with her husband and their 2 sons. In selecting her for this award, Mayor Pro Tem Roxy Nedebemaru says Maggie has been a pillar of inspiration and connection for the kids within our community. She pushes them to see things in themselves that others may not be able to immediately see. She is blazing the trail by uplifting future generations, and I'm honored to celebrate her.
Down. Council members, if you would. Hi, Ona. City of Bowie, Maryland, a proclamation to the most wonderful, beautiful, charming wife I have. I'm sorry. Okay, I got that out the way, so now everybody knows. A proclamation. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Bowie, Maryland, takes pleasure in recognizing the Honorable Sheila R. Tillerson Adams, a City of Bowie Women Trailblazers honoree. A trailblazer is a pioneer, a person who takes risks and travels an unknown path. They blaze a trail and leave a path for others to follow. They have the ability to think and see differently. They have a clear purpose. They have the courage to preserve and persevere. They have self-belief. Obstacles are a challenge for them. They are independent from the crowd. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland congratulates the Honorable Sheila R. Tillerson Adams on this great honor, presented on this 15th day of May, 2023, Timothy J. Adams, Mayor. And we're going to back up now. Okay. All right, go this way. No, I don't go this way. I go this way. Left of the chair. Let's see.
I would like to call our next honoree, Evelyn Archie. Ms. Archie, it's an honor to present you with the Women's Trailblazers Trophy and Proclamation. Thank you for your service to our great city and community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening again, everyone. Good evening. Again, as you know, my honoree that I'd like to definitely give recognition to this evening, my friend, your servant, Miss Betty Hewlett. Miss Hewlett, it is my pleasure to present you with the Women Trailblazers Trophy and this proclamation on behalf of the City of Bowie, its residents, and myself for all the work that you've done for all of the residents. And again, I do mean your work will be felt for generations to come. Your work is the reason we have a community that we all love and enjoy, and that our families will thrive for many generations in the future. Thank you for maintaining the integrity of Bowie. Thank you so very much, if I may hug you. Thank you very much. All right, here you are, this beautiful award staff. They're beautiful. They are beautiful and heavy. And here's your proclamation.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for giving us the honor to honor you.
Good evening, everyone. Y'all feel all right this evening? All right, good, good, good. I would like to call our next honoree, Dr. Jacqueline Marshall. Yeah, speak. No, I miss it. Dr. Marshall, I'm honored to present you with this Woman Trailblazer Trophy Proclamation. It's an honor for you to serve like you do and parlay from education to entrepreneurship and for our youth. Thank you for everything that you do. All right.
I'd like to call up our next honoree, Kathleen Parker. Kathleen, in recognition of a lifetime of commitment to education and many, many years of volunteer commitment in the city of Bowie dedicated to the arts, I'd like to present you with this trophy and with this proclamation. Thank you for being one of the many women without whom this entire place would fall apart.
I'm a little short, so I'll just look this up. Okay, wonderful. I'd like to call up Dr. Maggie Ray, if you could please join me up here. That would be wonderful. Okay. I'm gonna try not to cry because I don't cry when I have mascara on. But Dr. Ray, when I was thinking about who to honor in our community, I couldn't think of a better person than you. You are the example of inspiration and hope and instilling that in our young children, which is the pillar of our community and the next generation that's going to go forward. So I would be remiss if we didn't, as a city, highlight your amazing achievements to the city of Bowie, to Bowie High School, where you teach every day fearlessly and remind our children how powerful and how wonderful they actually are. So thank you for your lifetime commitment to our city. Thank you for being a resident. Thank you for having your beautiful family in our city. And it's my pleasure to honor you this year. So thank you. Okay, now I will read from this paper because I tend to get a little passionate and go off script. So I'll read from the paper. But if you can, just give all of our honorees a round of applause one more time, please. Yes, please, yes. Thank you. These are trailblazers who are unafraid to lead, unhesitant to break glass ceilings, and unwavering in their commitment to serve. It is imperative that we acknowledge women and the collective impact of our everyday trailblazers as they empower and inspire each of us to aspire to blaze our own trail. I am reminded of a quote by Maya Angelou. Each time a woman stands up for herself, without knowing it possibly, without claiming it, she stands up for all women. I would like to be known as an intelligent woman, a courageous woman, a loving woman, a woman who teaches by being. May you carry this message forward to the next generation of trailblazers. Thank you for being here.
Thinking about it, it says it's busy. Sorry. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
I would like to say at this moment, again, thank you not only to our honorees, but for all of those who came out tonight to help us celebrate them and celebrate our city and celebrate those who have worked so hard to make our lives so much better. So again, thank you all for being here.
Good night, everyone.
And I would be remiss if I didn't thank my fellow council members.
No,
In putting this together and doing this.
And staff.
I think this is an amazing event. Staff, you did a wonderful job in all you do, as always, and thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I would like to take a quick moment to say thank you to the restaurants, those who participated and just volunteered and contributed to make this evening so very special. It was not something they had to do or really forced to do, but something that they wanted to do to help celebrate the city of Bowie as well. And I just want to say thank you to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Now, at this time, we will be moving on to our city boards and committees. Ms. Shalina Hayes was interviewed on May 1st for appointment to the Arts Committee. Council concurred to appoint her to the committee as a member for a 2-year term. Please move to appoint her.
I'd like to move to appoint her to the Art Committee.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the motion carries. Ms. Rita Phelps was interviewed on May 1st for appointment to the Arts Committee. Council concurred to appoint her to the committee as a member for a 2-year term. Please move to appoint her.
I'd like to move to appoint Ms. Rita Phelps to the Arts Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Nay, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. Dr. Kalichi Fluid was interviewed on May 1st for appointment to Education Committee. Council concurred to appoint her to the committee as a member for a 2-year term. Please move to appoint her.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. At this time, could we have the appointees please come to the front if they are here? There you are. We will now.
We skipped over this one item, so we'll just get to that next. Sorry.
At this time, we will do the constitutional oath of office.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
If we don't stand, it doesn't count. It's the power vested in us.
Ladies,
Logo.
I state your name. Please raise your right hand. Do swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States. And that I will be faithful. And bear true allegiance. To the state of Maryland. And support the Constitution. And laws thereof. And that I will. To the best of my skill and judgment. Diligently and faithfully. Without partiality or prejudice. Execute the office of regular and member of the and state with committee.
the office of member of the Education Committee. Arts Committee. Sorry, member of the committee.
Your committee?
Arts Committee.
Very good. According to the Constitution
According to the Constitution
and the laws of this state.
and the laws of this state.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And we have, please come up. Proclamation. Here we go. Shelley?
Okay. Here you go. Thank you.
Please, and shake hands. Shake.
All the entire council wants to do. We're all thanking you for,
All right, we're
for
thanking
your
you.
volunteerism.
Exactly, so now we know, right?
Here you go. Thank you so very, very much for your commitment to the community.
It's not easy to be first, you did a great job.
Thank you so very much.
And Dr. Fu.
Thank you,
Here,
Dr.
congratulations.
Yes, this is where Councilmember Hawkins started there. When he was a teenager almost. All right, thank you, Doctor. Thank
And we
you.
got some hand sanitizer if you want.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much. And let's give a round of applause for those who are willing to serve.
Yes, again, another group of trailblazers.
And at this time, I would like to back up for a second because I'd like to do the approval and presentation of Proclamation P11-23, proclaiming the first Friday of June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Bowie.
I'd like
Could
to
you come
second
join?
that.
Okay.
Wait, yes, I'm sorry. Okay,
Are we going down?
yes.
Let's go.
Good evening, everyone. I know we have a lot going on tonight, so I don't want to take up too much of our time. As many of you who've been following the city of Bowie for a while know, we sadly have experienced in recent years an increase in the amount of firearms that we are finding illegally in our community, and we have also unfortunately experienced an increase in the number of homicides and gun-related violence and non-contact shootings in our community in recent years. I was approached by a group of Bowie residents who have been working on this issue and all of its complexity and challenges, and they presented me with the idea of joining a number of other communities in recognizing those who have lost their lives to gun violence over the years. And with that, I would like to read a proclamation of the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, proclaiming the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of Bowie. Whereas every day, more than 120 Americans die in gun-related homicides, suicides, and tragic accidents. Whereas Americans are more likely to die or be wounded in gun-related suicides, homicides, and tragic accidents than people in other like countries. Whereas there is a concerning and tragic increase in gun-related suicides and homicides in the United States. Whereas there is a concerning and tragic increase in gun-related crimes, including carjackings, muggings, and assaults in the United States. Whereas there is a further concerning tragic increase in calls to suicide and gun-related domestic violence hotlines in the United States. Whereas protecting public safety is the local government's first and highest responsibility. Whereas municipalities across the nation, including Bowie, are working to raise awareness and to help reduce senseless gun violence. Whereas in January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at the age 15. Whereas to recognize Hadia Pendleton's birthday, June 2nd, people across the United States will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas the idea of recognizing this day was inspired by Hadia's family and friends, who asked their neighbors and classmates to commemorate her life by wearing the color orange. Whereas the color orange was chosen as hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters, a color that has come to symbolize the value of human life. Whereas wearing orange on June 2nd, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence, and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. Whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 2nd, the first Friday in June 2023, to help raise awareness of gun violence. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland hereby recognizes the first Friday in June, June 2nd, 2023, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of Bowie, in order to raise awareness of gun violence, to remember the many Americans who have died or have suffered as a result of gun-related suicides, homicides, and tragic accidents, and to honor and recognize the value of human life. Introduced and passed by the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland at our regular meeting May 15, 2023, signed Timothy J. Adams, Mayor. Would the members of the group like to come up?
Thank you so much.
Come around. We can grab it.
I will.
Here you go, please, come here.
Here, come on in.
We would like you two ladies to hold this. Like you two ladies, come right in the middle. Right here. I'd like to say one on each side, and we'll do it this way. There you go. Michael, are you okay? Yeah, please, and if you'd like to say something, go right ahead.
I think I'd like to say thank you, because we really get a lot of support from the city and the state. I think we need to continue to work, and I think this is a really nice honor, and I thank you very much.
Yes, we
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to brag on moms a little bit. I haven't been with the organization very long, but compared to other states, we're doing much better than a lot of other states because we passed really significant gun laws. Recently, we passed a gun law to lower the age of someone who can purchase a gun. We also are better implementing something called a red flag law. I think that'd be very helpful. Red flag law allows people to report someone who may be threatening someone else or who is threatening to kill themselves. We've done a lot, and moms have been very successful in this campaign compared to other states, and thank you so much for recognizing their work. We really appreciate it.
We do.
Hey, thank you. Congratulations again. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you so much.
Too, thank you.
So much.
Sure. Continue your good work, please.
You take care.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, yes, this is good Bowie Fest.
We will be at the Bowie Fest.
Please do, please do. I'm coming for like pictures.
Again, thank you, everyone, for your time, and thank you again for the work that you're doing to stop gun violence, which affects every one of us. So again, thank you, and now we will move on to council announcements. I will open it to council members if they have any announcements they'd like to make at this time. Hearing none, we will move on now to the city manager's report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council and residents out there in TV land. I'd like to say that our employees and our continue to work really hard to seamlessly deliver services to our residents. Services such as code enforcement, police services, rangers working tonight, our solid waste division, our streets division, our water, utilities, and as on a daily basis without fail. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, City Manager. And touche to all the men and women, the hard-working men and women of the City of Bowie. We do appreciate you. We will now move on to the consent agenda, and I am opening the floor to motions.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, the motion carries. We will now move on to old business. Our first item is fiscal year 2024 Budget Ordinance 0523, Capital Improvements Program Resolution R2523, and Consent Yield Tax Rate, Adoption of Fiscal Year 2024 Budget, CIP, and CYTR.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak briefly on that before I let our finance director give a quick summary of what the bottom line is. We proposed a budget, and over the last 2 months, we all have diligently gone through it, and you've asked us a lot of questions, and I continue to present the proposed budget as I submitted it, but we are prepared to make any adjustments and or take any direction from the council as it relates to this budget. At this point, I'd like to ask Mr. Matthews to give a quick summary of the numbers, if you could.
Mr. Matthews?
Thank you, Al. Good evening, Mayor and Council. H. Byron Matthews, Finance Director for the City of Bowie. As you are aware, on April 10th, the City Manager's Department offered a budget to Council. In this budget, the City proposed a 5-cent tax increase. If I could direct you to the proposed budget page, or the proposed budget book on page 12, listed there is a fund balance forecast based on the current budget proposal. In FY24, the proposed revenues from all sources totaled $68,461,000. Expenditures totaled $76,296,000, which was a decrease in the fund balance of $7,835,000. This will, as it is an estimate at this time, would reduce our current fund balance from our $37,371,000 to $29,536,000. As laid out in the City Manager's letter to Council and to the Mayor, the City Manager has talked about our ongoing expenditures and how they are currently outpacing our revenues. The city has elected to not increase taxes over the last 14 years. And as a strategy, as we have always done, because we are a pay-go municipality, we use our fund balance to pay for items in our capital project program. As both council and mayor know, The gym and also the senior center was purchased via PAYGO. The city tends to only issue debt for large projects, such as the City Hall and the ice arena, which we issued bonds for in 2019. In the last 2 years, council has decided to use the funds from the bond proceeds to fund other capital projects within the CIP program. In this year's budget, staff expects to spend excuse me, council, I need to get to a page here. Expects to expend $2,468,300 on its general fund transfer to our capital projects. The other transfer to a major fund is our equipment acquisition fund and replacement fund, which is $2,388,000. All in all, council and mayor, I think the city manager has provided a consistent budget with the consistent message that it may be time for us to raise taxes. And he has offered that proposal several times, and we have moved on without an increase in taxes. So what I would just like to say in summary to all of that is the city's financial position is very stable. City has one of the largest fund balances when compared to other municipalities in our area. But we have been using that fund balance at a fast rate. And if we continue to go this way without adjusting our revenues, we will surely deplete our fund balance. Our policy says that we must maintain a fund balance of 25% of our expenditures. This was a policy established by council, and council has maintained that policy throughout the many years. In conclusion, I would like to say again, the financial impact to the city without raising these taxes could cause an imbalance on the current trajectory. So we propose an increase of 5 cents in the tax rate in order to begin to correct the imbalance of revenues and expenditures. Thank you, Mayor and Council. If you have any questions, I will be available to answer those.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to jump in. What we need tonight, we need a budget pass, either the one that I proposed or an alternate budget pass, so that we can get all our tax rate information to the appropriate agencies, the Prince George's County, State of Maryland, so they will know what our rate is. And we need that tonight, or certainly before the end of the month. So our last meeting is tonight, unless you all schedule something else. So we hand it over to you all for discussion and action, and we're prepared to adjust it any way the majority of council directs.
At this point, should we open the public hearing now? Okay, so I will be opening the public hearing at this time. And do we have any speakers?
Yes, you have one person signed to speak.
Sue Lavera?
You came with your paparazzi.
Wow.
Good
Well,
evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and all who are here. Thank you for this opportunity. I don't have a whole lot to say, but I have questions. And the questions have to do with process and the fact that being part of the Green Team, I understand how budgets evolve. Was an original member of that Green Team 11 years ago, so I've been through the budget sequences. I've watched the request. We started out feeling a little more flush, and each year we've been tasked with a little less. Keep cutting. So I'm tuned in from a very practical standpoint. My questions, there may be several. If you all have been aware since January, when we started putting the budgets together, of what the collections are being requested, plus the basic salary, you listen to what has been presented by staff regularly, it seems very clear that there aren't reasons to not raise that. Now, I know that every single one of us, some of us may have a little more means than others. I'm on a fixed income. I don't like the increases I've had to pay, but I choose to live here because of what is in Bowie. And I hear clearly what's being stated by the staff. I see it in my own committee, in my own life. I don't want that to happen. I know there are people who are hurting, and this won't be easy. Just buying orange juice, lordy, if you've bought orange juice lately, it's a different price. So my question is to each of you, should you be inclined to vote no? I'd really like to hear your reasons individually, why you either will support it or not. Ben Franklin said it, death and taxes, those are the inevitables. It's time, and if it's not time, it will have to happen. But why not now?
Thank you. I believe that's it for public hearing. So at this point, I will now declare the public hearing closed. If I may, Council, I would like to give you some feedback, and I think what Ms. Rivera really has asked for is about transparency. Just speaking from what we believe, how we should go, where we are. If you don't mind, I would like to start off with that, and bear with me as I go through this. And one of the things I did was doing the research outside of just here, but from an economic standpoint. If we raise taxes now, what would happen? What would be the impact? What do the experts say? And I'll give you something that's very basic, but I think it touches on several points. And that is, a city of 60,000 residents should not increase taxes at this time for several reasons. Firstly, the current economic situation is uncertain, and the COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted the financial stability of individuals and businesses. Many people have lost their jobs or experienced reduced income, and an increase in taxes would only add to their financial burden. Secondly, increasing taxes could discourage businesses from investing in the city. Companies are always looking for ways to cut costs and increase profits, and higher taxes could make it less attractive for them to operate in the city. This could lead to a decrease in the job opportunities for residents and a decline in the city's overall economic growth. Thirdly, increasing taxes could lead to a decrease in property values. Property owners are always looking for ways to minimize their expenses, and higher taxes could make it less appealing for people to buy or rent property in the city. This could lead to a decrease in demand for housing and a subsequent decrease in property values. Finally, increasing taxes could lead to a decrease in the quality of life for residents. People who have less disposable income to spend on leisure activities, such as dining out or attending events, which could lead to a decrease in the city's cultural offerings. Additionally, an increase in taxes could lead to a decrease in city services such as road maintenance or public transportation. In conclusion, a city of 60,000 residents should not increase taxes at this time. The current economic situation is uncertain, and an increase in taxes could add to the financial burden of individuals and businesses. Additionally, higher taxes could discourage businesses from investing in the city, lead to a decrease in property values, and decrease the quality of life for residents. What I would like to add on to that, which I think is more important, and I would like for you to try and bear with me and understand as we go through this. As we've gone through the budget process, which I think the city staff and others have done a great job of doing, they put together a great budget for us to look at. The first thing I want people to understand that if we accepted this budget as is and did not increase the property taxes, we would still meet that 25% amount of monies that we need to keep in reserve. So we would not be going beyond our reserves, and we would still be in strong economic standing as a city. The other thing we need to understand is that we have millions of dollars that are coming to the city which have not been included in this budget. And I think some of those things we've tried to hold back because we were asked to. But as I name a couple, I think we would know that these dollars could replace some of the CIP dollars and other things that we spend on now, but would be coming in. We have $1.7 million that is coming in from the federal, that we know is coming. We have another 485, almost 500,000 that's in the pipeline, that's coming. We received 500,000 from the state in the past session that we're looking to do. We have another $1 million we're looking at least to come into the budget to support our water projects and all. So as you see, we have millions, and I won't go through them all, but in understanding that we have that money to back that up, that is coming in, that will be there for us, that is in process. And so to raise, from what I read to you, please understand that that's my feeling on that, is that it's still a hard time for many people, and now is not the time for us to have to do it. Will we be looking at having to increase taxes in the future? Yes. We are not just kicking a can down the block. As I said, we have millions of dollars coming in to reimburse on some of those things that we are spending. And so for that reason, and I'm very open in saying, it's been a hard deliberative process, but with those things happening and knowing we can maintain a very strong fiscal standing for the city right now, even if we adopted the budget without increasing taxes, that I believe we should move forward with the budget, but should not increase taxes at this time. And I would open it up to any of my colleagues who would like to speak at this time as well. Councilman DeFore-Wolfe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask a question of staff, particularly Mr. Matthews. There was a report from the Finance Committee that advocated a different way of calculating the fund balance. Unfortunately, the report came in late in the process, and we have not had an opportunity really to discuss that. This was the recommendation that we consider adjusting the general fund balance policy from the current 25% of expenditures, and instead using the to discuss the pros and cons threshold that caps capital improvement program transfers to a percentage of the tax rate. Have you had any opportunity to have that conversation or have a conversation with the Finance Committee with regard to their recommendation?
Thank you for the question, Councilman. Yes, I have, and I believe those issues are two separate issues. Mm-hmm. One, the fund balance issue, whether or not the 25% of expenditures is still relevant today. And the other is a ideal of limiting the amount of transfer to the capital projects fund to a certain percent or dollar amount on the tax rate.
So was there, and I assume we don't have anybody here from the Finance Committee this evening, right?
That's correct, sir.
I think that both of those are worthy conversations to have, and I think we ought to explore, what that looks like. I think it's a little late in the process for doing anything about it obviously for this budget cycle. But I do think it's worthy of further exploration, the discussion of both pros and cons, and I would like for us to have that conversation, or at least kick it off in the not too distant future, so that we could at least consider what the possibilities are, and maybe the 25% is or is not relevant. I'm a little concerned about the idea of capping a transfer amount, because there may be some years where you've got a big expenditure followed by years where you don't. But I'm open to the discussion point, and there may be something in there that might be useful for us in the planning going forward. So if we could, let's plan to talk about that in the not too distant future, and accept that we can't do much about it in the short term, specifically about this.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll work with City Manager Lott to have a work session for that conversation.
Excellent, thank you. The other commentary I want to make about this is I think the city is in excellent fiscal condition, and I think our constituents as a general rule are as well. There's always someone who's going through down times, what have you. But nonetheless, I still feel that that raising the tax rate to me is still an issue. And my feeling is driven more by the notion that we have money in our funds that are in essence prepaid taxes, and we have in our current expected balance, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10 million excess above our 25% expenditure level. And on top of that, as part of that, we have about 4.6 million in tax increase that's part of that 10 million. So I expect that will disappear without the tax increase, but that will still leave us about 5 million over where we need to be vis-a-vis our expenditure target. So I feel quite comfortable. I know that over the many years I've been involved either in the Finance Committee or as a member of the City Council, we have seen this graph on a fairly consistent basis, although it's more dramatic this year than what we've seen in the past, which is the confluence of expenditures and revenues, and they're crossing paths, coming sooner and sooner. However, we always manage to overestimate and do a conservative and it's appropriate for budgeting purposes to be conservative with what you think your revenues will be, and then expect that your expenses will go up a bit more, and be conservative on that standpoint, which means invariably you will end up with running out of money sooner rather than later. Nonetheless, we have always outperformed our expectations, and I think that the current revenues we have forecasted for this fiscal year are sufficient to meet that. So I think we're in pretty good shape here. I will say, however, that can't continue forever. I fully expect that we will see a need for a tax increase in the not too distant future. It may be next year, maybe it's the year after, but I don't expect that we can keep on going like this. We have had expansion in the community, but we've not seen anything materialize yet. For example, for South Lake, not a lot from Melford, I think, and yet we do have inflation and a number of other things. So notwithstanding that, we've added a lot to our budget over the years, and I think we still have a little bit more room here, and I think that we can make that happen with our current tax rate. And so hopefully my colleagues are in agreement with that we can maintain our current fiscal condition and hold taxes at the steady and still be above our expenditure target, our reserve target vis-a-vis expenditures. So that's my thinking on the subject, and I very much appreciate the excellent work that staff has done over the course of this period, this budget cycle, which starts back in December and January and carries through and becomes all-consuming for folks as we get closer and closer. I know it's no small effort. It's a bottom-up budget approach, and I think it yields good results. And I think we've seen that with very few changes needed as part of the review process. So I want to thank you all for your excellent work on this and very much appreciate the time and energy that was spent on it. Thank you all.
Members would like to comment at this time?
Thank you, Mayor.
At this time?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was reading the news earlier this week about the federal budget and how the Social Security Trust Fund is expected to be depleted earlier than expected in the year 2033, just 10 years from now. Most of us will probably still be alive to see that fund depleted. I was reading a little bit earlier this week about the state budget, that the state's historic surplus is already going to be completely depleted, and the state is already having to squabble over the major programs that they've announced in recent years on education, because in spite of record amounts of money in their bank accounts, they're already running low. I was reading today that Prince George's County just discovered a $60 million shortfall in their budget in spite of record funding from the federal government and the state. And here we are tonight in Bowie, where we are looking at a situation that is luckily not nearly as bad in the short term, but where we are going to have to face some incredibly painful decisions in the long term, because for years we have kept kicking the can down the road. We are the level of government that does some of the most difficult jobs you can do in government: policing, first responder work, emergency management, trash collection, recycling, composting, streets maintenance. We're in one of those businesses that is hardest to hire for right now. There are fewer people going into public safety than ever, fewer people going into public works than ever. We are in a part of the country that, on the plus side, is growing. There's a lot of demand to live here. Property values have skyrocketed, as I think everybody's noticed. But the flip side is it makes this community very unaffordable to the people who serve in our police departments and pick up our trash and collect our composting and our recycling and do our street maintenance work. We have been warned by city staff for years now that absent cuts in service, cancellations of certain capital projects, or a tax rate increase, or some combination of all those things, absent those difficult choices, we are going to make the next generation of city leaders' lives very, very difficult. Every year that we delay a capital project, the costs go up. The labor costs go up, the material costs go up. There are real costs to waiting. Just a few years ago, we were in the middle of building an ice rink. Today, building half of that ice rink is as expensive as building the twice as large ice rink we were going to build and were in the middle of building just a few years ago. Delaying is expensive in this business. And so if we choose to delay tonight, we will be choosing to add costs upon costs upon costs on next year's projects. Now, maybe, next year the City Council will be willing to eliminate certain services and programs. We have a lot of Cadillac services that other communities don't have and can't afford. The county doesn't do twice a week trash collection anymore. Very few communities offer twice a year vacuum leaf collection. Most towns don't pick up the kind of special trash and equipment that we do. Lots of communities don't have local police departments. We could rely on the county like some other towns do for all of our public safety needs. That's a choice we can make. Maybe next year the City Council will choose to do that. but just as a gentle word of warning to my colleagues. In my 8 years here of trying to find people like me personally who doesn't use 80% of the city's services, who just needs his trash and recycling picked up, who just needs to know that when he calls 911, someone picks up. In 8 years, I've looked for people like me who personally would take the tax cut and do away with a lot of the services that are nice to have but not necessary to have. And I gotta tell you, in 8 years of knocking on doors and talking to my neighbors and talking to other folks in other neighborhoods in this city, I can't find 10 people who want to do away with the city's services to lower their taxes. I don't think I can. I met the head of the Libertarian Party in Bowie at an event on Saturday, and I'll be damned if he didn't tell me, I love this town because of its services and I don't care if I have to pay more for them. That's Bowie. People don't come here because they're looking for low taxes and beaches and year-round sun. People come here because they're looking for well-maintained, good-looking neighborhoods and top-notch services. We find it over and over with the consultants we hire and the studies we conduct. That is our strength, the quality of our community and the quality of our services. And so I fully recognize that people of good faith can disagree, and I fully recognize that we have new members of the City Council. We have folks who are genuinely trying to do their best with a tough situation. No one likes raising taxes. And the tax increase proposed in the budget we saw is about $250 for the typical Bowie household. If we delay on that, I understand why we're delaying. I get it. It's not easy. But difficult choices will be faced next year. And my ask of my colleagues is that as we go to our residents and as we talk to them in the next several months, let's be honest with them about the choices we face. Let us not go to residents and tell them all will be peachy keen, we'll keep our tax rate flat forever. Let's not go to our residents and promise them the services they expect at a lower cost than we can deliver. Let's be honest with our residents. You might be surprised by how well they respond to a little honesty. Thank you.
Next up, would like to speak.
You can go to whoever.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to thank my colleagues for speaking. And I want to say this because I rarely get an opportunity to say this, but I want to say this. I 100% agree with my colleague, Michael at staff. When I started here in the council about 14 years ago, when just prior to the last tax increase, and each year it came up to increase taxes. And under the former, with the former council and the former mayor, we continued to kick that can down the road, and now we're left where we are today. And just start off with some basic arithmetic, everyone. And before we go there, I want to just start by saying this. I consider myself not a liberal, not a conservative, but a moderate. I hate spending money. I'm a very frugal person. If you talk to any of my family members, he'll grab that dollar bill into the eagle screens. I just don't like spending money, and I don't like asking people for money. But some basic arithmetic, if you go back to 2009 to today where we are, 2023. I know this because I have my nephew and my niece that are living with me. In 2009, a carton of milk was $2.99. The other day I went to Safeway at the Bowie Town Center, it was $3.99. Things go up, things increase. Just Googling here, you can go. They said the dollar has had an average inflation rate of 2.5% between the year of 2009 and today, producing a cumulative price increase of 41.40%. This means that today's prices are 1.4 times higher the average rate since 2009, when we had the last tax increase. Councilmember Staff said that people here in Bowie love the amenities and the conveniences that we provide here. He's absolutely right. I never, ever have met a resident that said, I hate the leaf blowing pickup with the leaf vacuum system that you have. I hate receiving trash collection twice a week. I hate your recycling program. I hate your museums. I hate the Ken Hill Center being available to us at no cost if we need to need a room for a meeting. I hate all of those things. No, I've never heard anyone say that. I have had conversation with a number of our employees and our staff here that do a great job at what they do here. But as you know, we've had an increase in staff since 2009 to 2023. We've had a number of new departments. Our emergency management department, that group showed an impeccable amount of dedication to the Bowie resident during the pandemic. Our communications department, Una Cooper and her staff, and phenomenal work that they do. We can't continue to provide these sort of services on a shoestring budget. And things are getting thinner as we speak. They're getting thinner. I don't want to look up tomorrow and say, wow, I should have, what am I going to do? We're out of money now. We've hit this brick wall. I don't want to continue to kick this can down the road. And I know it's not a popular thing to do, to raise taxes. You know, some of us are going into an election year, and, you know, they don't want to meet that constituent and say, hey, I raised your taxes. As I've sat here over the past 14 years, I've said repeatedly, my customer is the city of Bowie, the entity known as the city of Bowie and its resident. And in order to provide ongoing great services to our residents, the entity has to be strong. Our staff, our trucks that are rolling the roads to pick up, collect trash, the trucks that are removing snow, the police department, we want to make sure these things are there when we need them. And I vow never to be that person to raise taxes, but things cost more. I mean, they cost more today than they did 9 years ago. Well, pardon me, 14 years ago. I do have a question, though, for staff. City Manager, if you could tell me and to our listening public at home and those that are in the audience tonight, what is the average cost that we would be looking? The average home, I understand, in Bowie has a value of $350,000. Some significantly higher, some are in the millions. So, you know, they may pay more, but a home that's an average cost of $350,000, what would they average additionally per year under your proposed tax increase?
Well, my understanding that would be about $180 in a year.
$180
Yeah.
additionally per
For a
year?
house that costs that much.
Okay. All right. Now, I always believe, too, that if we're going to raise taxes or ask people for additional money, then we need to, one, show them what we're giving them. Well, people have said that to me. Well, what are you giving me? Well, I'm going to give you the continuation of the great services that we've provided. We're going to continue on with our safe community, our clean community, our beautiful tree lines, our great parks. I mean, we have a number of residents that come from a number of visitors that come from other communities that enjoy the amenities that many of our residents love, like our parks and things of that nature. We do help subsidize some of the budgets of for instance, the Boys and Girls Clubs. A number of the programs that Councilmember Ndevamadu, or Mayor Pro Tem Ndevamadu, brought forward with job force programs, reinvesting in our community. We want to continue to have those dollars to be able to provide the reinvestment, to providing jobs, to providing education. I've been approached by a number of our residents asking for additional services such as expansion of our youth services program. That was a program that I at one point was sort of teetering on because I wanted to make sure that we were not charging our residents twice for a service. If youth services was a program that was offered by the county and the state, I didn't want the city residents having to pay for it twice when you've already paid the county and the state, if we're going to have that in the city of Bowie. But I learned that it's not a duplication of services. So I've been asked maybe perhaps we might want to consider expanding services there. These things are going to cost. And, you know, I know it's not a popular thing to do, but it's been 14 years. And if I have to fall on the sword to continue to provide my customer, the Bowie resident, my neighbor and friends, continued quality service and a safe, clean environment, then I'll fall on that sword. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel a little short. First off, I want to acknowledge the comments of my colleagues and just say I thank you for sharing your perspective and thank you for advocating for your communities. It really does mean a lot to have this meaningful dialogue with you. I think tonight we all have varying perspectives and varying differences that we're coming from, and I'm going to try to be as articulate as possible in articulating my stance. I first off want to start off by thanking the members of the community who have reached out and participated in the FY 2024 budget cycle. Part of what makes this dialogue so well-rounded is that you have a body of elected officials who represent a community filled with varying perspectives on what our path forward should look like. Unfortunately, at this time, I cannot support the proposed tax increase for the following reasons. I believe that we must consider the rising cost of living for our citizens. Families throughout our community are trying to figure out what does the path forward look like for them under the economic challenges that currently present themselves. The lingering effects of COVID-19 are still here. Many individuals and businesses are still struggling to recover, and an additional tax burden could exacerbate their financial hardships. By raising taxes, we risk hindering economic growth and stifling consumer spending, which are vital drivers of our local economy. Studies published in 2021 by the Brookings Institute show that the middle class is falling behind and experiencing much slower income growth. When money is tight, it is harder to build wealth. Income inequity is growing faster than income leaving the median middle class, with the average of $4,000 in liquid wealth and $87,000 of total wealth. I like to refer to a quote that I hold near and dear to my heart, which is, "To whom much is given, much is expected." With inflation on the rise, many families are already struggling to make ends meet, and by imposing additional taxes would only further strain their budgets, making it increasingly difficult for them to support local businesses and contribute to the overall economic vitality of our community. The average household cannot increase their income overnight. They can only increase the sacrifices that they make to meet when needed. That means that we have to also equally adjust our practices as a governing body. Tangibly, that means creating a business model that relies more on grants and building a stronger economic development commercial tax base. I'm just going to run you through a couple of things that came out over the last couple of weeks. This year, in 2023 alone, the following have come out. Biden sent $2.6 million to Maryland for infrastructure plan. Westmore announces $20 million in support for water bills. Prince George's County received $2.1 billion in aid. Maryland congressional delegation announced $18.3 million for waste and water storm systems. Biden announced $98.53 million for water infrastructure upgrades. Biden also announced $85.44 million in clean water infrastructure, with $18 million coming directly to the state of Maryland. Maryland approved $25 million in loan forgiveness for public works. We have a vibrant community that contributes so much to the state of Maryland and Prince George's County. Our community deserves a more sustainable business model that puts a greater focus on outside revenue sources without placing the burden on our constituents. When do we stop raising taxes if this is our continuous approach? Does there become a point where we put a cap on the amount, or do we just continue to lie on the potential tax increases each year? There will always be needs as a city government. But I believe that we as a governing body need to be more innovative and aggressive in adopting a new model to create revenue, and I believe in my colleagues to know that we can. If you look across the state of Maryland, Prince George's County already has one of the highest tax rates throughout the state, with similar cities across the state maintaining a tax percent from 2 cents all the way up to 50 cents with a median of 28 cents on the dollar. We can explore a new way of working and structuring our departments in a way that promotes efficiency, a better efficiency collectively. Secondly, the ongoing technological advancements continue to reshape industries and the job market. Increased taxation could discourage businesses from investing in innovative technologies and hinder their ability to create new job opportunities. It is essential to foster an environment that encourages growth and innovation and ensure economic long-term sustainability. Thirdly, the United States is facing an increase in global competition. Higher taxes may just put a strain on more local businesses and create disadvantage compared to international competitors operating in countries with lower tax rates. This could lead to a potential decline in investment and relocation of businesses, ultimately resulting in a loss of jobs and revenue for our community. With inflation on the rise, many families are already struggling to make ends meet. Imposing additional taxes would only further strain their budgets, making it increasingly difficult for them to support local businesses and contribute to the overall economic vitality of our community. Taking into account the aforementioned trends affecting the U.S. economy, I do believe that it is essential for us to find alternative solutions to promote economic growth, support local businesses, and alleviate the burdens faced by our community. By empathetically considering these factors, I do believe that we can foster a thriving local economy that benefits all residents. Over the next year, I do urge my colleagues to be more aggressive on attaining state and federal grants, investing in our economic development by finding stronger economic development commercial tax bases, and looking at where we can embrace innovation to cut costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be honest, this is one of those tough decisions that council members have to make. I've spoken with just about everyone on this council to see where people were. I've consulted with staff, and it's apparent that, from my view, the city council, we're going to have to do something with regards to taxes moving forward. I don't think it's this year. I think that it's something that we're going to have to really come together and find a pathway forward. I do acknowledge that the residents of this city, they don't move here and live here to pay low taxes, but to appreciate and experience great services, beautiful communities, a community that, you know, I've lived in all of my life. So that's where I am right now. I look forward to working with the city council and staff on pathways forward in the future. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, all my colleagues. Thank you for your presentation. There are several reasons why it's not best, in my opinion, for local government to, raise taxes. One of them is economic recovery. We still, as a small business, I started a small business in this city 22 years ago and had to deal with, the balance of raising whether it's prices, or whether it's raising booth rent in the type of field that I'm in. Despite me not having any hair, I'm a master barber by trade, and both of my sons, they own businesses in the city as well. the consumers that support small businesses, and I speak to a lot of small businesses in the area. The consumers that support these small businesses, if they don't have, the disposable economics, they are not able to support, a lot of the businesses. I'm in Bowie. I love Bowie. I've been living in Bowie for 26 years. My wife and I, we love, everything that Bowie gives, the amenities and all. It's just in terms of getting over this recovery. I think we had something similar to this like in 2008 when we had the real estate crash, and we were able to kind of maneuver and do things. I think timing is everything, and I'm willing, along with my council members as well, the mayor and the staff, to aggressively approach these tax issues. And I just, at this point, that is my reason why I don't support the increase at this very moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I call for the vote, there are a couple of comments, because I talked to someone earlier and they said, make sure I'm just honest and straightforward to everybody, that they understand. And I need to make sure that everybody understands this. Unfortunately, there's been this whole campaign that has put the city in a negative light. We have people talking about how we are in a bad situation financially, and how the city has been mismanaged by this council, and it's simply not true. As you heard from our financial manager, the city is on strong, solid financial footing. I have to say, and I disagree, and I'm a little hurt that it was inferred that what we are doing had anything to do with politics and about an election. Because that's not what this is about. This is about people making sure that we do what's best for the city. That reality is there are people hurting. There are businesses still hurting. And it has to be said loud and clear to every citizen of Bowie that by not raising taxes this year, we are not, I repeat, we're not reducing a single service. We have the financial wherewithal not only to provide all the services that are in this budget, but to make sure that we're in a position that we still have the fund and the maintenance moving forward that keep us on a solid financial footing. So please understand that. Understand the choice about what we're making now isn't anything other than saying, what can we do to make the city the best? What can we do in the interest of all citizens? And right now, I truly believe that is not increasing taxes while we are not, for the third time, spread it to everyone, reducing not one single service. We will maintain the exact same services as called out in this budget moving forward without increasing taxes this year. And so please know that. That's the truth. You know, I'm going to leave it on this one thing that many of us have heard. People may lie about the numbers, but the numbers don't lie. And the numbers show us in good fiscal standing. Hey, thank you so very much for taking me to do that, because again, I wanted to make sure I told you the absolute truth and you knew what was going on tonight. So, having said that, I'll entertain a motion. To approve.
approve. What's the motion?
Well, let me say this to.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like.
I would like to, and you're right, because I will need to amend that as we do it. But I would like to ask and to verify what I just said from the city manager. And that if we move forward, we are not, by not raising taxes right now, we are not removing any of the city services that you have proposed, correct?
Well, Mr. Mayor, not to get involved in any council discussions, however, I can't avoid it. You're right. For fiscal year 2024, whether you pass the tax increase or not, all the services will be delivered so far,
Thank you.
unless you take something out before you vote, all right?
Thank you, and I wasn't trying to I just wanted to put that out there, that they heard that from the
But
city.
that is
Let's
true.
go.
We
I got
plan,
you.
you know, if in fact, if the city does not pass the 5-cent tax increase, you know, we will be able to deliver all the services in fiscal year 2024.
Thank you.
That's true.
Thank you. All right, I will listen to do 4 or how y'all want to.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move to approve Budget Ordinance 0523 with an amendment to maintain taxes at our current 40-cent level.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none.
I have a question. Is discussion?
Go ahead. Discussion?
So, and my question would really be directed to the city manager, I believe, and that is, if they were to adopt the budget that's before them tonight, that does reflect the tax increase?
No, it does not. It would,
Okay.
if with the amendment, I think that was made, that alleviated the 5 cents, then we would have to, we would take the $4+ million from the fund balance.
Yes.
And instead of getting it, stop talking, instead of getting it from any place else. All right?
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that keeps us still above our threshold. Okay. We're fine. I'm fine. Okay. You have a question? Still discussion? Go ahead.
Yes, I have a quick question. I'm sorry, I do, the mayor brought up a very good point by asking, and I just have to ask this question, because it's just on my mind. I won't rest if I don't ask this question. The mayor brought up a point that we would continue all services. Nothing would be at all hindered, stopped, shortened. We would continue all services as always if we didn't make this increase. Or my question to staff is then, why was there a proposal to increase if we could continue to operate without asking for additional money? Because I'd rather not have to do that if we could continue to operate. I mean, I'm going to say this. Okay, hear me a second, everyone. If we could operate currently, approve this budget without having to raise taxes and it not have a negative impact on the city services, staff, or anything that we have currently in place, then why would we receive a proposal to make an increase when we could actually put it off until next year? Because as we did say, that the average household would spend about $180,000 additionally. Some of those residents might want to hold on to that $180 until next year. And I mean, because every dollar matters in many households. I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for myself. That $180 would, I would like to hold on to it for as long as possible. So my question then would be, if we could in fact hold off for a year, then we perhaps should.
Well, the question is, if next year, the next budget is, that will be presented next April, that budget, if it's the desire of the council to maintain the services that currently exist, and I think that is it, I mean, that's what, in my neighborhood, then in that particular case, the amount of the transfer will probably be $12 million from the fund balance, which would put the city below that 25% expenditure policy that you all have set forth. Of course, you can take that away. And in my professional opinion, as fiduciary here, that would put us in a position where our bond rating would be affected, because no longer will our fund balance, we wouldn't even be meeting our own standards, our own goals. Also, so next year, we would have to either cut services or drastically raise the tax rate.
So we'll be looking at, my question is, we may be looking at a higher tax increase next year?
Yes, it could be. We do have, Mr. Estep was right. With the spiraling inflation situation going on, everything costs more. 3 years ago, a trash truck cost $190,000. Now it costs $300,000. Next year, it'll cost $320,000, and we simply have to buy it because we maintain 18 trash trucks to service these 18,000 houses that we have. So if the council continues in FY 2024, we'll be fine. But the projected budget for 2025, unless you give me directions to cut services, we're gonna take $12+ million out of the fund balance, and we'll drop below that 25%. Moody's, Fitz, and all those people will evaluate us, and possibly, if something isn't done, it could affect our bond rating and or other things. So that's why I projected it in this budget, so that we could avoid that
pitfall,
that up against the wall situation. That's why it's in the budget.
Councilmember Gardner, you might recall that over the years we've done this, the tax rate, the city staff proposed in the past was 2 cents. And because we kept waiting, this year it went up to 5 cents. In our projected budget that we all have, they're saying that by 2029, the tax rate would have to go up 10 cents by 2029. And so the idea is the longer we delay this, the greater the pain we face every year as that reserve fund we have gets depleted further. That's the concern. And if, God forbid, next year, property values drop and our tax receipts come in lower than expected, we could potentially next year be at our threshold. And if we don't get out of that dive, we could lose our AAA bond rating, which sets off another chain reaction, increasing our costs for borrowing. So that's what we were trying to avoid this year. So that being said, we can get through this budget without a tax rate increase. We're taking a giant bite out of our reserves, but that is going to make the decisions next year way more difficult. And with respect to my colleagues, we started out this budget cycle in January, not one person proposed a cut they wanted to make. And frankly, I'm kind of at my wit's end with people who call themselves fiscally responsible, but who really just want to never vote for a tax increase while getting credit for all the services that their governments provide. So starting next year, the first thing that people need to come to the table with in January are the services they're willing to cut and the programs they're willing to eliminate. Absent that, I can't take anyone seriously when they call themselves fiscally responsible.
Well, I think at this time, we'll be moving on, City Manager. I think that was very disheartening what you just said, Council Member. Obviously, you don't understand the economics of this, because we shared a little earlier with you that we will have millions of dollars, and I apologize for the way they're going. When I say the economics of it, we just shared that we will be having additional millions of dollars coming in that to support all of our CIP and other things we will be able to do. We will be looking at doing those. The reality is that that's where we are. This isn't about, and I don't think that it's fair to attack people about not being fiscally responsible and those kind of things. I don't think that's how we've operated as a council, nor do I think that's how we should operate. I think there's a sense of congeniality and wanting working together. So at this point, we will go back and I will entertain the vote. I think we had a first. And a second.
Mr. Mayor, I think you need to talk to the city attorney here. She's got an issue.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. However, in talking to the finance director, if you do not approve the tax increase, the numbers in the document before you will change, correct?
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
So you may be able to make a statement about the tax rate or your desire about the tax rate, but the document before you will have to come back in an amended form with not just the tax rate
Absolutely.
change, but all the numbers.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Understood. Okay, so it's been moved and properly second. At this time, I would ask that we hold a roll call vote. And I will go last. Please, Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Estev?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolfley? Councilmember Endemamato, Mayor Pro Tem Endemamato.
Aye.
Councilmember Gardner.
Nay.
Councilmember Hawkins.
Aye.
Councilmember Truesdale. Mayor Adams.
Aye.
That's 5 to 2 in favor.
Thank you, Council. We will now move on to adoption of ordinance 0623.
I think some people in the audience, Mr. Mayor, might be confused about the vote. I'm confused. And some of the council might be too. Sorry. Carol, could you recite that? Would you mind?
No, we approved, what we were trying to do was approve the budget with no tax increase. And that was the vote, was on. Correct?
The motion was to approve with a 40-cent tax.
Okay. Can we state the motion?
It was voted on, I mean.
So, I'm sorry to keep interjecting, Mr. Mayor, but with respect to the motion that was made, it was the council's intent to establish what the tax rate will be for the next year, but not to adopt the ordinance that was presented, because that will come back to you in an amended fashion. No?
When we chose to wait 2 weeks to do this?
What, I'm fine.
Can we discuss what we're talking about at hand?
Yeah, let's discuss.
Huh?
I don't want to go back in the past.
No, but my understanding was the motion was that we would pass the budget, that we would keep the tax rate as is, right? But that we would go back and get the new numbers from our current financial manager to come back with those numbers, because they will change, because there isn't a tax increase, so the numbers will have to change in the budget.
Right, so the budget would not be adopted as of yet, because it's those changed numbers that will come back to you that will constitute the budget for next year.
Okay, so
With
we're just.
the direction.
If I could just kind of consolidate, what you're saying is, we can approve not to approve the budget as it is because the numbers will change, but we can approve that we are not raising taxes, correct?
You can, I think they can approve the tax rate, correct? Yes. So that's what the approval is. That's what we're saying, I believe. That you approve the tax rate, and that requires us to go back and recalculate the
Okay,
numbers.
because the numbers will
And the
change.
numbers will, and in the June meeting, which I might not be here for that one, that would be approved at that point.
And that we will approve those numbers as he
Right.
brings back that budget. Okay, great. All right. Before,
Can you just make sure everybody understood the vote? 'Cause I don't think everybody
Mr.
understood the vote. I don't think everybody understood the vote.
They don't.
I don't think
Okay.
everybody. So we might need to redo that.
so,
You might need to redo that.
okay, so I'm thinking some may not have understood the clarity of the vote we just took. Is it possible for us to take the roll call vote again to make sure that everyone is in stay? So why don't we do that, just to make sure, I think everybody understands what we're trying to do. And let's do that, okay.
Could we get somebody to restate the motion in a second for clarity, Mr. Mayor?
That would be fine.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we move forward with a 40-cent tax rate for fiscal year 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. I'll call for a roll call vote at this time.
Councilmember Estev? Aye. Councilmember Wolfley?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Endemamato?
Aye.
Councilmember Gardner?
Nay.
Councilmember Hawkins?
Aye.
Councilmember Truesdale?
Aye.
Mayor Adams?
Aye.
At 6-1.
Motion carries. Now, adoption of ordinance 0623, supplemental appropriations for the annual budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Staff?
The motion you were talking about, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, you were talking about the current budget or the supplemental?
We're now on part B.
On B. Yeah, Brian. Go right ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me get reorganized here. The adoption of ordinance 0623 supplemental appropriation for the annual budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Ordinance 0623 provides a supplemental appropriation for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023 for the following purposes. Council meeting on March 20th, 2023, council instructed staff to issue a contract to Sandy Visual LLC of Laurel, Maryland, to update the audiovisual technology at the Bowie Senior Center. An additional $42,519 is required for that project. Council meeting on March 20th, 2023, council instructed staff to issue a contract to Patasco Mechanical LLC of Handover, Maryland, to remove and replace 16 rooftop HVAC units at the Kent Hill Center. An additional funding of $47,358 is required for this project. Strickland Fire Protection submitted a change order in the amount of $58,844.57, requesting additional funding to install miscellaneous grills, dampers, which will allow free venting of the IT-related equipment. An additional funding of $6,485 is required. The effect of this ordinance, Mayor, will require a use of the fund balance totaling $96,500. The expenditure will all be transferred to the capital projects program. Capital projects program, after receiving that transfer of $96,500, will then allocate that based over the 3 projects I just mentioned to you in the amounts of fire suppression, $6,500, Ken Hill Center HVAC, $47,400, and the senior center audio visual for $42,600, for a grand total of $96,500. The council approval of ordinance 0623, providing a supplemental appropriation for the annual budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023 is requested.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Matthews, a quick question for you. Those dollars are available in fiscal year 23 for us to do, correct?
That's correct, Mayor. We'll be making a transfer from our fund balance to the capital projects program to facilitate those expenditures.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I will call the public hearing open. Do we have anyone speaking?
There's no one time to speak this evening, Mayor.
At this time, I will declare the public hearing closed.
Can I ask a quick question? Are we only allowed to speak if we register in advance?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I will open the floor for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 06-23.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. We will now move on to new business, and that is the plastic bag ban. Council will discuss a letter of support for CB 32-2023, the county better bag bill. I will turn this, I believe, to Councilman Estev at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations to our 2 new members for getting through your first budget cycle. I hope this was a great experience for you, and best of luck as you sign up for many more years of this. I just want to say a quick thank you to staff and to some local residents and community members for bringing to us the Prince George's County Better Bag Bill, formerly titled CB 32-2023. Prince George's County will be reviewing this bill in the coming weeks. It's sponsored by Council Chair Tom Denoga. And what it seeks to do is what several other jurisdictions around us have already done, which is to create new rules eliminating the use of automatically available plastic bags in retail settings. The goal is fairly narrow. I'm usually a little bit skeptical about creating one-size-fits-all rules, especially for businesses in our community. And I will admit that I kind of took some of the sponsors of this to task in some lengthy back and forths, but I'll acknowledge they won me over. This has the support of Maryland retailers. This ban is not only probably inevitable, but is going to become more common, potentially statewide and certainly in other jurisdictions. And the goal of the ban is very straightforward. Our waterways, our oceans, our local communities here are covered in plastic bags. These plastic bags disintegrate, they end up in our water, they end up consumed by the animals that we eat. We're finding more and more microplastics in humans. I was horrified to discover that people we believe are now eating a credit card's worth of plastic each week. I hope it's not a MasterCard because those are especially gross. But this is an increasingly serious issue, and these bans have been found to be effective in reducing the number of single-use plastic bags that are used and that end up in waterways and then that end up in our food and in us. And so what I propose tonight is that that the City Council send a letter of support. The language for that letter were detailed in our packets. To summarize, we're simply saying that we write in support of CB 32. We understand the negative impact of plastic bags in local water streams, marshes, natural areas, the impact on people, the impact on our wildlife, and we encourage the County Council to vote for this legislation that would go into effect in the county. The legislation does include a 10-cent bag fee that would be attached to alternative bags that retailers would offer. So if you go into an Aldi or a Lidl right now, they have alternative bags that you can use for, I think it's like 7 cents, maybe 10 cents in some of the stores. The retailers keep that fee, and that money goes to the retailers being able to provide alternative bags. The bill also makes provisions for reusable plastic bags to be available to low-income residents who need them. With that, I'll take any questions that my colleagues have.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a question, Councilmember Steph. You mentioned that the monies collected from the purchase of these bags go directly to the retailer. Is that how it's done in most jurisdictions? I'm understanding that in the District of Columbia, the monies go directly to a fund that they then in turn use to fund their cleanup efforts.
I believe in DC, and this is something that I learned an hour and a half ago from Mayor Pro-Tem Madu, I believe that in DC they have a separate fund that supports like employee wellness.
Okay.
This is a county bill. I would encourage my colleagues to talk to the bill sponsor, Chair Denoga, if they have any particular thoughts or amendments on this. As I understand it, this would be more similar to programs that exist in other Maryland jurisdictions where they're simply attaching a fee onto the bag that then the retailer keeps in order to provide alternative bags so that customers, when they don't have plastic bags to use, they can use some other alternative, reusable or paper or otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Councilmember.
I guess Councilmember Estava, I want to thank you for bringing this to council. Really interesting remarks. How does this contribute to sustainability? That's what, I guess what I'm trying to understand. I understand that the bulk of the revenue that would be collected from this tax would be kept by the businesses, but they would use this increase in funding to support other bags that are not plastic. But how does this actually impact our commitments to sustainability? Can we tie it back to the city of Bowie to figure out what the benefit is here for us? And I will be taking you up on your suggestion. I will be calling Chair Denoga this week to talk more about the wellness aspect, because DC did institute, like for example, every time you buy something at like a local coffee shop, not every coffee shop does this, but they do charge you 5 cents extra, and that 5 cents goes towards employee wellness programs. So that's something I can get behind, and I will be sending those suggestions to him. But I want to understand, let's tie it back to the city of Bowie. How does this contribute to our sustainability goals?
I appreciate that. So the focus of this bill is very narrow, and that is to reduce the amount of single-use plastic bags that are ending up in local waterways and that are disintegrating into our water, disintegrating into our livestock, and then disintegrating into us. And so that's the function. The function of this bill is simply to reduce the amount of single-use plastics that are ending up in local streams. But as I said, I would encourage any of my colleagues to reach out to Chair Denoga, and I'm sure he'll be open to suggestion.
So let me ask one more question. Would it be more fitting of us to have a discussion, or to give individual members an opportunity to have a discussion with Chair Denoga before we indicate support one way or another? Or do you think it is more pressing, given the timelines that are in front of us, which I don't know what those timelines are, to indicate whether our support lies one way or another at this time?
As I understand it, this is going to be coming up fairly shortly. This is simply a letter of support from the city for the bill and for the concept of the bill. It doesn't preclude us from reaching out to the chair separately with thoughts. As I understand it, they're open to suggestion. As I also understand it, they're just interested in seeing if communities out there support this concept. And so I don't think anything precludes us from sending a letter of support and then separately reaching out to Chair Dernoga with additional thoughts. I think we can do both.
I think I'd just like to make a comment along those lines. And I think it's important that we continue to really understand the impact that we have on our environment. I know many try to balance those economic impacts as well, but we really have to understand the economic impacts as we look at what we're doing to our climate and to our environment. I say that I've been very fortunate to have been selected by the governor and approved by the Senate of the state of Maryland to continue as I have in the past as a commissioner for the Chesapeake Bay and Tidal Area Commission. And we meet constantly and going out and trying to protect our tidal wetlands and our shores. And so I think with the councilman that's brought on board and what we talk about and as we look at that, I think that's something we really have to pay attention to. And we, as a city, need to make sure that we try and do our part in making sure how we assist as we look at the environmental issues and as we look at those things. So I say that to say I am a part of that commission, and I have been for years now, and I work on that. So I don't want anyone to think that my talking about supporting these things and doing that is anything other than just being transparent. And that's what I work on, and that's what we meet on, and we fight really hard on that. So again, thank you for bringing that up tonight. Any other comments? So.
Staff, do you need a formal vote on this, or does a mere
Yes.
affirmation from majority? Okay. Then I'd like to move that the City Council adopt the letter of support for the Prince George's County Council Bill CB 32, 2023.
And I'd like to second that.
It's been moved and properly.
I'm sorry, I was just speaking. There we go.
Can I move forward, do forward? It's been moved and properly second. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor?
Nay.
Hearing none, motion carries. And at this point, I would like to say thank you to everyone who spent the time to be here this evening. Thank you for staff for all that you've done. I know this whole budget process, and we've given you more work to do, is arduous. I'd like to thank my colleagues for putting in the time, the effort, and sharing. And I'd like to thank the citizens of Bowie for making sure that they hold us accountable to what we're responsible for. Hey, everyone, please have a good night, and thank you. I'm waiting on that.